Okay, welcome to the Board of Directors meeting for MSAD 51 for Monday, November 7th, 2022. I'll call the meeting to order, and missing here tonight is Tom and Vanessa, and Scott is also absent. So we will move right into recognition, and I think Carol's going to start.
Thought I was going to have to wait for some official business, but I'm glad I'm ready. Carol MacArthur, principal of Greeley Middle School 4-5, and I'm here tonight to honor two of our staff members, one two-legged, one four-legged. I have with me tonight our school counselor, Allie Waterhouse, and she is the handler of our certified therapy dog, Lou, who hopefully the camera can reach. So Allie came to me probably about 4 to 5 years ago and asked what I thought if she were to train her new puppy as a certified therapy dog, and if I would be interested in having Lou come to school and be part of our regular programming. And believe it or not, I'm not the biggest dog person, but I was like, yes, let's do it. And you might even find me petting her once in a while. So Allie and Lou went through the certification process to be trained, and Lou now comes to school once a week. Pre-pandemic, it was a couple of times a week, so I think we're working her stamina back. And also, when Lou is present at school, Allie becomes invisible. So kids flock to Lou, and she, actually staff do too. She is an amazing part of our school community. Students get introduced to Lou in a slideshow at the beginning of the school year. Allie and I both collaboratively talk about the guidelines that students need to follow when Lou is around, things like approaching in a calm way and, giving a few pets and moving along. Also that Allie's the only one that is able to feed Lou. Some different things around interacting with Lou, and also permission for kids who might not be comfortable with dogs to not interact. So there's a nice balance, but we find even those who maybe are a little bit hesitant by the end of the school year, everyone flocks to Lou. There's lots of research out about the benefits of therapy dogs in school, and obviously Allie would be much more educated to speak about those. But some of the things that we've seen, specifically just the social aspect of having Lou around. She's a great emotional support. The physical benefits, really she has a calming effect. And she also provides a little bit of academic support as well. Students love to just snuggle up with Lou and read to her and maybe do some math problems with her. And so she's just been an amazing part of our school community. And one of the biggest days of the school year after Lou's first day coming is Lou's birthday. Kids love to draw her pictures, and Allie has them posted all around her room and probably brings a few home, I imagine. So we're just really grateful to Allie for being willing to go through the process of having a certified therapy dog. It is a lot of work and a lot of training, but clearly she has trained and raised an amazing therapy dog, and we're just really grateful to have both of them in our school community. So I don't know, Allie, if you wanted to add anything.
She's not ignoring you. Sorry for her back. I think it's a great experience to have her at school. Seeing the kids interact with her is quite magical. Students who maybe wouldn't take the time to even say hello, just would walk by and not want you to see them, will stop and interact and tell you something about their life. And so you have that moment to connect, and you know that you've just experienced something that was just really special. And then that relationship keeps building throughout the school year. And they all know when Lou is coming. Instead of Wednesday, it's called Lou Day. That's what students call it. Tomorrow's Lou Day. And she just provides a sense, just a positive energy when she's there. The environment just kind of sparkles a little bit on that day. So we just feel really lucky to have her. And I just feel really lucky that we were allowed to have her. So thank you also to our higher ups who allowed that to happen because it's pretty special.
Any questions from the board?
I was just curious, so on Wednesdays, where is Lou? Like if you're in your office working, is Lou next to you? Or
She is. So Lou has to stay with me by the laws of the therapy dog community. She's with me at all times and she's on her leash at all times. So she has to be attached to me in some way. So students can't actually walk her on their own. They can go for walks with me, which we do a lot of, and they talk to her and they pet her, and they get to see all the interactions of Lou and how to take care of a dog when you go outside. So that's a little life lesson too. So she's with me all day. She's tired of me by the end of the day.
I just wanted to note that before COVID, there was a time that it must have been Lou Day, that I was in the building and I saw you with Lou and the students. I mean, it was just, to see them light up, and it was pretty cool.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Much
Well,
appreciated.
I think Lou wanted to say a couple words. She's a wonderful addition to the school.
Okay, before we move on, anybody else want to jump in with anything else for recognition? Okay. So, next item on the agenda is approval of minutes, and I'll take them as a group if there are no amendments.
I did notice in the October 3rd meeting, I don't know if it needs to be updated, but let me see. Back when it was discussing the motion that I raised, it's just missing gender nonconforming. Let me get to where it is.
So, if you want it as verbatim, it was said as we table the work on policy JBR until we are in a working consultation relationship on someone who has expertise in transgender students, gender nonconforming students, and how those issues arise in a school setting.
Oh, yeah, I just it didn't have gender. That was all on the last one.
Yeah.
So you want to amend the the minutes?
Yeah.
Okay, so we can amend that?
Yep.
Okay. All right, so now is there a motion?
With amendment, so moved.
Okay, very good.
I'll second.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks, Ann. Discussion? All in favor?
I have to abstain for one, though, so
Oh,
do I abstain for all of them? How does that work?
You have to abstain.
I have to abstain since I wasn't here on the...
yeah, why don't you, I guess since we already did them as a group, abstain from all, I guess.
Okay.
Whatever. All right, all in favor? All opposed? And abstaining? Ann. Okay, very good. In the future, if you want to split them up, we can do
Yeah,
that.
I totally wasn't even thinking about that,
Yep.
so...
Okay, so moving on to public comment. Is there anybody here that would like to speak? Please come up to the mic, introduce yourself. Okay, seeing none, I'll close public comment. And we have no presentations tonight, correct, Jeff?
Correct. Yep.
Okay, so we'll move to item 6, items for action, and the first item there is the field trip request for the Dominican Republic. So I think we'll be hearing from Senorita Corral. Did I say that right?
Good evening. Can you hear me? Yes, great. My name is Margaret Corral. I'm a Spanish teacher at Greeley High School. I'm here tonight on behalf of my colleague Jen Giuliano and I to seek approval for a proposed trip to the Dominican Republic in April 2023 with the tour company EF, Education First. We've chosen EF because it is a well-known and highly respected tour company whose priority is the safety of its clients. EF considers and adheres to all U.S. State Department warnings and restrictions. All insurance will be provided through EF, and COVID measures are in place. This trip has a focus on STEM and agriculture, in which the students will have an opportunity to learn through hands-on experiences about various important products cultivated in the Dominican Republic. Much of what students will have a chance to experience ties directly to the Spanish language curriculums at GHS in terms of linguistics, history, and culture. In addition, the scientific, technological, economic, and artistic aspects of our trip will connect to many other content areas and students' learning during high school. This trip will be open to all GHS students and will be funded individually. EF provides access to a private, secure online platform for each student to create their own funding page that goes directly to their trip. Also, there is a Global Citizen Scholarship that our students may apply for, whose funds are distributed based on merit and need, and that's through EF as well. Jen has previously traveled to the Dominican Republic, and I have traveled internationally on many occasions with students over my past 25 years working here in the district. As bilingual teachers of Spanish, Jen and I feel confident and excited to facilitate this great adventure for our students. We know the importance of travel and are looking forward to helping our students know the world beyond the classroom. This is definitely an opportunity that will engage, empower, and inspire our students and teachers. Thank you for your time. Please let me know if you have any questions.
I have a question regarding the financing. I appreciate knowing that there are the scholarships available through EF, though I don't know how robust their scholarship program is, so I don't know if it's possible that, say, for instance, if someone really wanted to go applied for a scholarship and were rejected, if there'd be other options that we could maybe work with the PTO or somehow to ensure that everyone who really wants to go can.
Yes, I agree. I think that's always an obstacle, and traveling is very expensive. So there are a few little avenues that I don't want to necessarily express right this moment because I'm not sure that they will follow through. But I do have my eyes and ears open for other ways that I can encourage students to raise the funds to be able to go, and I appreciate that.
I had one other question. You said it's open to all Greeley High School students, regardless of whether they take Spanish. Anyone
Correct.
can go.
Yes, thank you for asking that.
Could you go into some detail about just the safety? I can imagine that that would be foremost on people's minds. Just the track record of the company and how the day-to-day works and how you make sure that everybody's accounted for, buddy system, whatever. Like, how does that work?
So through any of these tour companies, but with EF, we will have a 24-hour a day tour director, tour guide with us. Also, Jen and I will be with the students at all times. So students will not be going off by themselves. Absolutely, if we're in a market, for example, we will use the buddy system. But at all times, we will be together. There is a tour bus, so we will be in a bus traveling around the country and traveling to the different locations all together all the time. And that bus is dedicated to us as well as the tour director. Is that?
Yeah.
I know that's only part of it. I can say that EF has established great connections in the places that they travel to. So that always provides me with good peace of mind that they know how to manage. I will also just say that being bilingual is in a Spanish-speaking place, Spanish and English is very helpful in ensuring people's safety as well.
Okay. Thank you.
So does EF, have they run this exact trip before
Yes.
with other schools? Okay.
They have, yeah. So we chose it from a list. Jen is very interested in permaculture, actually, and we will be going to a permaculture, to a permaculture workshop. So yes, we chose it because it looks really interesting. We'll be going to a cacao farm, so we'll be seeing how chocolate is harvested, and pineapples, and going to a university, and a lot of environmental things.
And are you staying at like hotels?
Yes,
Or are you,
we'll be staying in hotels. Not 5-star, but they won't be roughing it.
Leanne?
I'm assuming there's going to be some pent-up demand for these types of trips after they've been,
I hope so.
on hold for a bit. And I see your size is around 12 to 16 students. How do you plan on, if there is a lot of demand, how do you select which students?
Well, I think that if there is a lot of demand, I know a lot of colleagues that I work with that are also itching to get out of the country. So I don't think it will be a hard to find more chaperones. We already have a list of other adults that would be, other chaperones that would be willing to go. So if that's our problem, that would be a great one to have.
So you're hoping you'd be able to accommodate.
And the great thing about having more students is the price also goes down. So the price that we have right now is based on sort of our lowest end participation. And as we increase our participation, that price will go down, which also would make me feel a lot better about that for them.
I had one other question, and sorry, this I think actually might be better for Jeff. Is EF Tours or travel agency, have we used them before for the France trip or Quebec?
We've used them a lot.
Okay.
Actually, they're pretty well known in the educational world, and I would say the majority of trips that we've gone on here have been through EF.
Okay.
Yep.
I personally have gone on probably at least 5 or 6 EF tours in this district with our students.
And I would add, in another district as a teacher in Portland, I also was a chaperone on an EF tour to Greece.
Yeah, they do a great job. Yeah, they're good company.
Okay. Other questions, concerns, comments from the board? Okay, thank you. So we need an approval.
We
for
do.
this, right?
It's
And
out of the country, so it requires board approval.
can you tell us exactly what the wording is that you need? Just an approval of the field trip?
Yes, it would just be to approve the Dominican Republic field trip requested as presented.
I move to approve the field trip to the Dominican Republic.
Thank you.
Second to approve.
Thank you, Christine. Okay. Further comments, discussion? Okay. All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much. Okay, moving on to 6B, sanctioning of girls ice hockey co-op. So Jeff, are you going to talk us through that?
Yes, so we had a request. We have our own girls ice hockey team, as everyone knows. We've had a team for a number of years here in the district. We had a request from Gray New Gloucester, the coach in the girls hockey team in Gray New Gloucester, to reinstate a cooperative agreement that we actually had 4 years ago with Gray New Gloucester. And then for the last 3 years, they have been cooperating with another high school and decided that they wanted to come back and cooperate with us. And the MPA does require that each board make sure that it approves that cooperative relationship. So this cooperative relationship does not change anything for us. We still hire our own coach. In fact, I interviewed a coach today, head coach for the girls hockey team, which has been vacant. So we'll have that completed, and then the coaching staff all under our athletic program, and the Gray New Gloucester School Department will pay the cost for these 2 students. Right now it's 2 students to come and join our team. They also contribute towards the contest management, which is the events, the games that we have. So we have 21 of our own students that are participating in our program right now, and then we'll have 2 from Gray New Gloucester. But it is still the Greeley ice hockey program. We do have to have it approved by both boards when you take in students from another high school on a team. So I'm very pleased to recommend this because we've partnered with Gray New Gloucester before. It's been a very productive and positive relationship. And so it was before, and we expect it will be again. Both athletic directors are very much on board with this as well. And the Gray New Gloucester School Board has already approved it.
Great. Thank you. Comments, questions from the board?
It says teams. It means JV and varsity.
Yes, they will not have either one of their programs.
Okay. So it's the full.
Yeah, I believe for the 2 students that we're talking about, they are varsity. They're varsity players.
Okay.
It's great that we can do this.
Yeah.
similar to what we did with Falmouth football.
Yep.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah.
Works out well.
Others? Okay. I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Okay. Thank you, Ann. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Thank you, Mike. And we are voting to approve the sanctioning of girls ice hockey co-op with Gray New Gloucester. Okay. All in favor? All opposed? Abstaining? Motion carries unanimous. Thank you. All right, moving on to 6C, approval of professional positions. With no objection, I'll take both at the same time. Jeff, you want to take us through that first?
Yep, this is, we have 2 positions. This is continuing with our vacancies with educational technicians in our district. And instead of filling them with educational technicians, which has been very difficult to find, we also have gone in a programmatic shift, as I've mentioned at the last couple of meetings, and that the board is aware of. So we've been hiring professional staff level positions. And so we have a social worker who we're looking to hire at the Wilson School. We had 4 applicants for the position, and we had 1 person that we were bringing forward. And I have to say, all of the, this will, if approved tonight, we'll have 6 positions now approved for professional staff in our behavior and our FLS programs. And we have had amazing quality candidates. We're just really thrilled because school has started, but these are positions that we can hire throughout the year. We have another position at 6-8, which is a social worker position. And we had 3 applicants for the position. We had one that was, again, outstanding that we're bringing forward, and we're really excited about both these positions. Again, they're filling vacant educational technician positions, but we are not planning to fill those positions, so they will remain vacant. They are being replaced by these positions, and in some cases, these positions are actually filling more than 1 vacancy. I've had a chance to go into a couple of our programs that we have since hired professional staff since the beginning of the school year. And we have amazing educational technicians in our district. But some of these roles are quite different. The social workers, speech language clinicians, they bring a different skill set to some of our students who are, who have the most challenges for learning and need some really high quality and high level instruction on a daily basis. And I've really been thrilled to see this. So really excited about the piece. And if you see BASE from, BASE means behavior. That's an acronym for behavior program. And so, both positions, I'm sorry, will be behavior. One at Wilson School and one at GMS 6-8.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Should we do a motion first and then questions?
Sure.
I'll do it. I'll move to approve the appointment of both professional positions as outlined by the superintendent.
Thank you, Mike. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Jared. Okay, further discussion? Go ahead.
So I wanted to ask your opinion, Jeff. So we made this decision to start hiring for the professional positions because we couldn't find ed tech 3s. This is almost like we're creating a case study. This could be a really interesting model. Have you been, I don't know, it just popped into my head as you're talking about this. It sounds like this is somewhat exciting about really devoting a lot of resources and time to social work, especially for this part of our, broad educational atmosphere. I'm interested if you've thought of it this way as potentially a new model to work with this part of these students and how we operate as a district.
It's definitely
not eloquent at all. Sorry.
No, it is unique in Maine. As we've been, I know Dr. Olson has been talking with her colleagues in instructional support across the state, and the candidates that are interviewing as well. We've actually had 20 candidates in a pool at a time, depending on the position for OT, speech, and social work since we started advertising these positions, and they've all been saying how exciting it is that this is wraparound. And I think other directors in the state are saying, this may be a way of looking at our programming and wondering if this is a better fit, a better model.
It sounds incredibly interesting and potentially exciting. This level of health professionals throughout our district is just a wonderful thing.
It really, I mean, just to see some of these new folks working with individual students who have some of the really most challenges for learning in our district, and being able to see that extra support is unbelievable. I've really been fortunate to be able to see that myself, and I've been getting great feedback. I do think this is a great model. This is not just something, and I think Mike makes a good point, this is not something that we're planning to do just to fill vacancies this year. I'd really like to continue with this, and Julie Olson is very adamant about, let's continue this model in our district. Yes, it costs a little bit more money, but I think it is well worth it, and I always remind people that we always get state subsidy. The state recognizes special services as an area for special consideration financially. So I don't think that is as much of a worry as people are concerned about.
Well, I know I'm personally very excited about it. Being involved in the negotiations and having a chance to talk to Dr. Olson about this. You know, it certainly is not a slight or anything reflecting upon the work of our ed techs. I think, unfortunately, the state, you know, had put ed techs in these positions for special ed that are really unsustainable. And so to be able to have different staff in our special ed program with those specialized trainings, it's just what our students, it's best for our students.
It's a clinical model. Really, when you think about day treatment models, this is what we're doing. We're offering now a day treatment. We're moving towards that. We're not there yet. There'll always be a role for educational technicians in our FLS and behavior programs in our district. They have a very special and unique role. But the idea of bringing more clinical support for our students in these programs is really, really important. And honestly, I think Julie and I both were like, why didn't we think about this before? It took kind of a crisis in staffing to think about it. But and these are clinicians who are really excited. They're applying and they're like, I can't believe you're doing this. This is like this is an amazing model. We've actually hired a couple people out of private placement practice and coming here. We've hired others from public service. So it's really, I have to say I'm really on board with this completely. I just think it's a great model. And I think we started it inadvertently, and then we're like, well, wait a minute, this just makes sense. Why wouldn't we keep doing this?
Well, whenever I hear about a model, I always think about measuring. How can we measure some outcomes of this? And I think the investment right now is really important for a couple of different standpoints. One, we're having a hard time filling the other positions, but stability of some of these positions, especially for the kids, I think is a really great outcome too that we could potentially see. But just coming off of COVID with some of the greater needs too, with the more support, I'm just thrilled that we're able to offer this, and just being curious to think through what are some of those measurable outcomes that we could look to.
I could say the IEP goals are always the most measurable in any special education program, just looking at, you know, what's our attainment rate, and obviously those are kind of anecdotal, but we also have data to look at that. But I also think, Lan, you make a good point about stability. We lose a lot of staff, educational technicians. We rarely lose teachers unless they're retiring. That's usually it, or they're moving to another state for a personal reason. But our professional staff, and not to use that word, but that's the state word, they stay with us.
Yeah.
They stay with us for decades, most of the time.
Right.
And so the stability rate, having ed techs that come and go, you know, we have a group of ed techs that have been here for years and years, and they're amazing. And we have some that have only been here for a couple of years, and they're amazing, but we lose too many of those people.
And there's a cost to
because they're
that,
looking for a
yeah.
teaching job, or they're, you know, going into a different line of work because of the pay or benefits or whatever. But when we hire staff like teachers and specialists, they tend to stay with us.
Great.
So that's another bonus, is that we'll have a more stable program staff.
Is this something that, as we get towards the end of the year, that we could get an update from Julie? And
Absolutely.
the good, bad, and the ugly? And
She will give it to you, yes. She will give you the whole report.
Yeah.
Yes, I will mention that to her.
certainly a bit of an investment, so it'd be good to get that update. Okay, further comments? Okay, so We didn't vote on that. Did we vote on
Nope,
that yet?
not
We
yet.
did not vote on that. Okay, so we're approving the 2 professional positions at MIW and GMS 68. All in favor? All opposed? Unanimous. Motion carries. Thank you.
Great.
All right, so next is the annual approval of the emergency plan. Jeff?
Yep, the emergency plan is, by state statute, the board has to approve your emergency management plan. So we actually have a much longer plan than the one-page summary you have in your packet, but we don't disclose it, obviously, for obvious reasons. However, board members are able to see the emergency plan. If you come to the office, we will, obviously for reasons we don't try to release this in bulk, but you can sit down and just let Fran know if you are interested in looking at our plan, and you can just view it, and then she'll just take it back. I think the biggest thing I want to just say is that the safety committee has been working on a new emergency plan, and it is much more comprehensive. It's user-friendly. And it involves a lot of the updated measures from Homeland Security, ALICE, and all of that stuff, as well as behavior threat assessment. Our SRO, Amy Owen, has been working on that with some school staff, administrators, and members of the safety committee. And I think it's going to be an amazing improvement on our plan. Not that we don't have a good plan, but I think it's just a lot more best practices. We've been updating a lot of our safety practices over the last 3-4 years, working with Homeland Security and our police chief, our SRO, both of our fire chiefs, all of them serve on the safety committee, not the Homeland Security rep. We did a year-long audit with him. But yes, so this is basically just a notification to the board for your approval, and again, any member of the board can inspect the emergency plan if you want to. We do not allow others to inspect it except for administrators and those that need to know.
Okay. Tom's not here. Leanne, you're on safety. Have you had a meeting yet? Do you want to add anything?
I've found the meetings, I mean, I just started and they've been really helpful, and lots of changes are being put into place based on ALICE and the Sandy Hook Promise, the app. It sounds like there may be some additional changes that may make its way into this overall plan based on the implementation of that. So that's really exciting as well. Some different teams maybe that may be configured to support that. So yeah, I guess my only question is as we work through those things this year, does this plan get updated along the way, or is it just like an annual update of this particular document?
So this year, we won't have the emergency plan done until the end of the school year. So all of the things that we're putting into place, like the Sandy Hook anonymous app, will be in the plan before it goes to the board. And the board will have to approve the new emergency plan, not just annual approval, but approve the newness of the plan because we're switching over to a different plan. But yes, it will have Sandy Hook, it will have ALICE, and all the pieces that we've been putting into place will be in that.
Okay, further comments, questions? Okay, do I hear a motion? Oh,
Sorry, quick question. With regard to Alice, how measurable outcomes, how has the feedback been so far? When is the next evaluation of when teachers can give their input?
Yep, so we did do a survey at the very beginning after their training, and we will be, I actually just sent out some information to staff last week.
Okay.
In an update that I gave them, and part of it was Alice and what the safety committee had done and all those pieces. So there are some outstanding items. There are a lot of outstanding items that we still need to work through, requests from staff. Some staff have asked us to reconsider some of the things that the safety committee's looked at. So we're now in the process of doing that. We actually have a meeting this week to discuss those and just finalize that. But I think probably mid-year, we just are finishing right now the student part of rolling it out. Not all of the students in the district. We've been doing it kind of team by team. We've had different ways that we've rolled it out at each school. So we're finishing that up. We actually haven't completely finished it. So We were taking our time to make sure we do it right and say it with age appropriateness. So I would say probably mid-year is going to be the next time. And then staff will have a knowledge check this month, which is a 5-minute automatic check that they get in their email. They have to complete it. We run a report. And it basically keeps staff, every staff member in the district who's been trained has to complete this 5-minute online knowledge check just to make sure that they're constantly thinking about it. That's a 90-day check every 90 days, even this summer.
Okay, that's
They get it. So we do that. I was kidding about the summer part, but it probably lines up that way. It's just automatic. But yes, mid-year.
I had one other question about that for you, Jeff. Initially, nothing was planned, I think, for subs. Is that correct? As far as them having
Yes,
knowledge
correct.
of this?
Yes.
Is there any follow-up to that? Could they get a packet on it? Could they have a department head, explanation of it? Especially at least for the regular subs, because come winter, knock on wood, in case there are more subs needed, you could have a school full of a lot of subs, and it'd be pretty different, I think, for subs to experience what may occur.
Yep. So we have talked about the just making myself a note here, but we have been talking about all the people like coaches, subs, who have not been trained completely, and how we handling that. So the sub piece, Susie Robbins is working on the sub handbook anyway, a new sub handbook, and part of it will have Alice information in, where there probably will be an online component that subs have to complete. Thankfully, right now, most of our subs, and we haven't gotten into that season that you just mentioned, where there's more illness, but our permanent subs, who are just regular members of our staff, permanent subs were trained at the beginning of the year. The ones that started with us got trained.
Great.
Then we just trained, I believe, 31, 32 staff that had just missed the training, weren't here, or had COVID, whatever it was, or were hired afterwards, or had a conflict of some kind with the training. And we just, I think it was 2 weeks ago, completed that training. So we had 2 different sessions. So we have trained everybody that we've hired to the state who are regular staff, but substitute, and so including permanent subs, but daily subs and coaches are the ones that are outstanding. So we do have that on our list. And when the HR specialist position finally is fully an HR specialist position, which hopefully will be soon, that person will be taking over all of that training and making sure that those training reports are done and making sure every staff member is up to date on all their trainings. We have a whole training schedule for required trainings in our district.
Great, thank you.
Yes, that is very important.
Others? Okay, do I hear a motion to approve the annual emergency plan or the annual approval of the emergency plan?
I motion to approve.
Okay, thank you, Christina. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Leanne. Further talks, discussion, questions, concerns? Okay, all in favor? All opposed? Unanimous, motion carries. Thank you. All right, so we'll move on to number 7, superintendent's report.
Yep, superintendents, we actually have quite a bit tonight to talk about. I'll go pretty briefly, but you'll find it a lot of great information and things happening in the district right now. Hopefully it will jump up there. Here we go. So we have a lot going on in the district. And this is actually from the last month that things have been going on as well. All right, so congratulations to Leah Raven, who's been commended student on the 2021 PSAT, and she is in the top 50,000 students in the United States. And Christian Wengler is a semifinalist in the National Merit Scholarship Program for 2021, and this is, and even though it says 2021, we always go back, they go back a year when doing this. And Christian is in the top 16,000 students in the United States, and these are both very honorable places to be. We had a guest speaker, Gary Lewis, who came in. He's actually a volcanologist. I cannot ever say that word. Volcanologist with 4th grade classes. and included staff and students in the simulation. We've been having a lot more speakers coming in, a lot of events. We've had groups coming in. Really, this is, I think, a lot of people are just really excited. Teachers are excited, administrators are excited to kind of get back into the groove with all of this that we haven't had for a couple of years. So it's been a lot of excitement and a lot of things going on this fall. I couldn't possibly put it in this presentation. There's too many of them. This was a big one, 3 years of not having the grand event, which is a grandparent event. The PTO sponsors this for the Wilson School, and wow, if you were anywhere close to the Wilson School, the traffic was backed way up trying to get into Wilson School that evening. It was literally packed, grandparents everywhere. And just cars just stalled. But it was great, and I think everybody had a good time walking around, bumping into people literally. But this is one view that was taken. This is something that the 8th grade students do every year, but I always see it look a little different. This is a scalable model of the solar system. And Tommy and Avery probably remember doing this. Do you remember this? This may be something they've only done for 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, this didn't happen.
Okay, so maybe it's only 3 years. It has maybe, I know it's been a couple years at least, but they built a scalable model based on the campus. From what's the distance from Earth to the Sun, all the planets, and the Milky Way. And you literally have to travel the distance of the campus, in a scalable form. So we have younger grades classes that go out with clipboards and study this material. The weather's been great, so kids have been out there with their teachers in learning more about the solar system. And that was all done by 8th grade students, which is great. Graham Shove's IB geography class at the high school conducted field work along Portland's Commercial Street. This is part of the IB program. We have many courses offered at the high school that are IB courses. So they went into Portland and they were looking at land use inventories, traffic counts, quality analysis, looking at boats and counting those and doing survey analysis of all of this, and collecting data to investigate the land use pressures on commercial fishing, which is one of the areas of exploration that they were looking at in the geography course. So this is just one kind of activity that you would find. Kim McDonald, who's the IB coordinator, was here a couple weeks ago talking about the program itself. Here's an actual real-life example of what some IB courses are doing. The high school community service club members recently went into Ryan's Forest and helped to remove invasive plant species, which have been, as a lot of forests in Maine have been experiencing and starting to take over. So that is a very important project. They spent a lot of time doing it. So I think that was a huge, I know that was very much appreciated. And this is the beauty of having a lot of grades in one school. 7th grade scientists were working with 5th graders through a topic called density experiments, which is part of a collaborative pilot between the 4th and 5th grades in the 6th and 7th and 8th grade science classes. So they were able to get together and do that. The Greeley PTO sponsored a raffle during the grand event, which is the grandparent event I just showed you. And they raffled off a principal for an hour. So a young lady named Rory, who is a kindergartner at Mabel I. Wilson School, she won the raffle. And she was able to get on the microphone at lunchtime, which is huge. The kids clapped and cheered for her. She was able to read a message, and she worked with Principal Corey Muncie, Assistant Principal Mallory Orzechowski today. Actually, it was today. Yes, it was today.
Corey been demoted yet?
Not yet. I told them, I said, watch out. This young lady is going to be principal someday or running something. She did a great job, and she was all of 5 and was in charge of the school. She made some phone calls to parents, too, including hers. Greeley varsity football team. I like to highlight the football team because they've been away for a while, and it's nice to have them back. And there's been a lot of support for having this team back. I think there's a lot of question marks if there was enough students or enough support or whatnot to have our team back after 4 years. But it's been a huge community effort, and the football team has had a very good run this fall. And one of the things that they did to give back was to help with cleaning up, with raking and other things in yards for the Aging in Place program, which is Cumberland seniors that need extra help in their yard, just kind of cleaning things up for the winter or for the fall. Ninth graders, this is actually a little bit of an old story, but we haven't brought forward yet. Ninth graders spent, this was probably 3-4 weeks ago now, spent advisories in small groups, working with Camp Kiev, which came in for a day and worked with all ninth graders. Sophomores that particular day, so kind of the high school took a break for a day and did some other activities that were very important. Sophomores visited St. Joseph's College that day to get an idea of university or college setting. Juniors took the PSATs, and seniors were involved in post-secondary activities, including finishing up their applications. So there was a lot of things going on that day. It was early October. In third grade classes, actually all the third graders I think have gone by now, but half of the third grade went one day, and I believe the other half went the other day to Maine Wildlife Park. They're exploring the park and enjoying a presentation to learn more about mammals that live in Maine. My favorite mammal is a bear. And I know that many of them saw moose and bear and everything else. This is the first year that we have done this, and is for quite a while. District partnered with Northern Light Home Care. This has actually already been done. Some of your children might have participated in the student flu vaccine clinic. And so this year we did it actually during school hours. I want to thank all the nurses and all the administrators for helping us set up those schedules so that as many students as wanted to, and this was by permission from parents, could participate in this clinic. And this has brought forward some good news about our district. This was another one that came in, again, from Niche, which does the rankings for the United States. This is 2023. They found that Greeley is, out of 10,776 school districts, approximately in the United States, Greeley is ranked 121 for best athletic program in the United States. That's just amazing, I think. And for overall best school district in the United States, out of, again, 10,751, I don't know what happened to the other 20 districts, but ranked 795 in the United States. So really, really should be proud of this, and community should be proud of that. And then finally, I know this has been around a couple of times, but I figure, might as well show it one more time. It's just so nice. This is a virtual tour of the proposed new primary school, which obviously is on the ballot for tomorrow. And I understand about half the people in both towns have now voted by absentee, and then the other half will vote tomorrow. But in case anyone has not seen this, it's just a great view of the rendering of what the school probably will look like at the end of the day if this is approved. So from the exterior end of things, that's the library right in the middle, just the blue area, and just kind of going around the academic wings. Really sitting on that property at 80 Gray Road, I think is going to be a beautiful site if voters approve it tomorrow. Winding away now down past the academic wings. It'll go around through the cafeteria at this point, and then back down to the front of the school. And you can see that there is gardens that are built into the school, and that may or may not be part of the overall project, depending on the financing at the end of the day. But certainly it's built in at this point to do that. And there's outdoor seating for kids to be able to sit in as well. we've actually been doing a lot of outdoor seating for lunches. So anyway, that is the superintendent's report.
Thanks, Jeff. Comments from the board, questions?
Thanks for offering the flu clinic again this year.
Always a big
Really
one.
appreciated that. Gave my permission and then forgot to tell the kids, so it was a nice surprise they had that day.
Yes, they love that, don't they?
Right.
Yeah.
But it was
We
great.
want to keep everyone healthy, and
Yeah.
I know a lot of our staff, we had a staff clinic, flu clinic, I did that one myself. We had a lot of staff participate in that. So just having those just keeps everybody healthy, keeps them in school as much as possible. The nurses were really pushing for that this year.
I appreciated being
Yep.
during school hours and offered.
Yes,
so
we were
thank
able
you.
to do that.
Is there interest, if and when the COVID booster is available for kids, to do a volunteer as well?
We've actually asked for that, and we haven't gotten an answer yet. So I'm going to ask again,
Okay.
find out what's going on with that.
It's currently not available
It isn't available, okay.
For 11 and under, right?
for 11 and under, yeah.
Or, yeah.
I will see if that's a possibility. Because we've done that before, after school. Yeah.
Okay. Others? Kim?
I just want to take a moment, because I don't know that we'll do this in the committee reports, but Jeff and I had a meeting with both the PTO and Foundation 51 representatives, and that was a while ago, so I haven't had a chance to really share that, but I just want to publicly acknowledge all that they do. And it was a really good reminder for me of all the times that my kids have personally benefited from what the PTO and Foundation 51 has done. So I just want to thank them for the grand event and for the raffle and just all the ways. I think sometimes it's taken for granted how much is able to be done just because of what they do. And I know that they are currently, they're doing their, the PTO is doing their, what's it, the fundraiser, why am I blanking on?
Pledge drive.
They do their.
The drive.
Yes, they do the pledge drive. They
Pledge drive, thank
the
you.
parent appeal.
Parent appeal.
Yeah,
Yes.
parent
okay.
appeal,
I knew it
yes.
had the word parent in it. So, yeah. So I just want to encourage people to consider making a small donation, but a larger amount of parent involvement is even better than a few large donations. So, just for all of us to remember and acknowledge the PTO and Foundation 51.
Yeah, the PTO funds the vast majority of our field trips. They bring in artists and residents, among other things. Foundation 51 provides grant cycles for teachers to apply for. They have funded many different projects in the district. Many of them are kind of hardened projects that we keep, like the greenhouse, for example, things that are, I know the Foundation 51 likes to fund things that are sustainable and can be carried for several years. So they both have different missions, but both are critically important to the district and the students they serve. So thanks for saying that, Kim. Appreciate it.
Others? Okay. Yeah, I would just like to say that's a great report. It's so nice to go through and hear about all the great things that are going on and accomplishments and
There's a lot more too. I honestly would have taken twice as long. It's really amazing to see this.
And I want to echo what you said about the football program. I'm so impressed. I mean, the record isn't very exciting this year, but this is a building year. But the program as a whole, the coaches at all levels. My son played yesterday in the 5th grade 5-6 championship, and some of the varsity players were there watching. I mean, it's just fantastic, and the stuff they're doing in the community. So kudos to them for really attacking it and making it a success. So, okay. Moving on to committee reports. So for finance, Tom nor Vanessa are here. Go for it, Kim. Want to say anything?
I don't know why. I just volunteered myself. We did have our first meeting. Scott's not here either, but yeah, the budget schedule, that was the biggest thing, is just that is being established as to what our roles will be in that process. So I believe that's been approved. I'm trying to remember. There, an email came out today, and now I'm trying to remember.
It's still being fine-tuned.
Yeah, yeah, but I think that we all have a much better sense of what our involvement will be. Primarily, February into March is going to be right our big time. But as all new members of the Finance Committee, I really appreciated that Scott walked us through all that we can expect.
Do you want to add anything to that, Jeff?
Finance Committee will start getting involved early in mid-January-ish, looking at just strategic priorities and helping Scott and I kind of finalize or think about which priorities are going to go forward into the presentation to the full board. So that will be an important part of the Finance Committee's process. And then the Finance Committee does, like Kim said, just kind of takes it right, goes all the way into March. Just over and over again, kind of before the presentation in mid-March that's made. And then the full board takes the budget from the presentation in mid-March all the way until the referendum in June.
So the whole process, about a 7.5-month process, and we're just starting with the DLT budget discussions, right?
Yes.
At each building level.
Right.
Okay. Moving on to policy. Jared.
So we had 4 policies come out of the policy committee that were approved to be sent to the board for first reading. That's all around basically student discipline. And so policy JK on student discipline, JKD, which is on suspension of students, JKE, which is expulsion of students, and policy JKER, which is guidelines around expulsion, hearings, and reentry guidelines for guidelines essentially for policy JKE, expulsion of students. These were primarily driven by essentially changes in the law, so these were required policy changes, and specifically some of the changes, for example, to policy JK were to make them conform to law, which is that specifically for JK, bear with me for 1 second. There are certain provisions, there are certain actions that cannot be taken for students in 5th grade and below. So JK speaks to, in particular, withholding of recess cannot be done for students in 5th grade and below. And we also updated the guideline to specify that students with disabilities, discipline of students with disabilities has to be done in accordance with applicable federal and state law and regulations. Some of the other provisions, such as suspension of students, you cannot suspend a student to be consistent with current law if they are in 5th grade or below, other than for specific exceptions. The same is true as well for expulsion of students. And so basically those 3 provisions were updated to conform with law, and there were some very modest amendments made to the guidelines for JKE, expulsion of students. So happy to take any questions on that, but primarily these are, again, edits to conform with new law.
I was just curious. I know, because I know last year the policy committee had worked on all of these, and it seems like most of it, the work then that was done, was just kind of reviewing that work from last year. Was there a lot of other edits to any of these, or I couldn't tell from looking through them because I just couldn't remember.
Yeah, I actually missed the last meetings. Mike, if you want to speak to that.
No, it was pretty close to where we had landed. We had a couple open questions about whether it would be grade 8 and below, but at the advice of administrators, it was kept to grade 5 and below. But that was the only thing. I think the rest of it was we'd pretty locked most of it away. Like we went through all the questions. That was the only few that were there.
Great, thanks, Mike.
Yeah, the only contention was that 6, 7, 8, and whether we wanted to leave the ability for administrators to be able to suspend, expel in that age group, and we did leave that open, which is with the state minimum.
It's permitted, and it was also done under the, we had a couple of administrators come and testify to the committee that they had advised that we not go beyond the new guidelines from the state. And on their advice, we followed their advice and just stuck with the guidelines provided by the state.
Okay.
I
Other
was
questions,
curious.
comments?
Sorry.
Go ahead, Kim.
I was just curious about the student discipline under
JK?
C. Yeah, JK under C. It looked like you had put in youth court, restorative circles, and then it got crossed out. I was just curious whether does that mean that there won't be youth court, or was it just deemed not necessary to put in the policy?
I think it was too prescriptive, if I remember correctly. And so the language that's in there, the positive and restorative interventions will be used to the extent feasible. If I'm not mistaken, I'm fairly certain that's what it was. It's just that this was a bit prescriptive and that there are other options available as well. Not saying that youth court is bad, and it's actually, I think it's being reintroduced and utilized. But this just allows for more flexibility.
Okay, good. I was
Yeah,
just
we didn't
afraid
have
that was
youth
being
court
taken
for
out.
a couple of years, so we didn't want to, because of the regional nature of youth court. We have a lot of different high schools, so it was put on hold. So having something in policy that could or may not or happen from year to year, but youth court is back in session now, and we do participate. Our high school does participate in that, and we have an advisor and we have students that participate in youth court. It's a great program.
Yeah.
But as Mike said, it's just having something that specific in the policy. It's better just have an umbrella language. And that's the only reason it was stricken.
Well, and Maine Youth Court, has revised their ways too. That now they are no longer referred to as Maine Youth Court. It's youth-led justice.
Yep.
Dan?
Had maybe a process question. How is this, I appreciate that recess may not be withheld, especially having experienced this as a parent of a kid who needed their recess. How is this then communicated down to the district and the teachers to ensure that recess does not get withheld?
So even though you're approving the policy or hopefully we'll approve these policy
This is
changes.
first read.
I'm sorry, you will approve the policy changes hopefully next meeting.
Okay.
The administrators have been following these guidelines for a year because they were state law.
Okay.
So the administrators each year bring all the changes to teachers and staff in their school at the first days that we have, and make sure that staff are aware of all the policy and handbook changes.
Okay.
So that's how staff know. The only other way that it's in here is the restorative piece, that if a student in 5th grade or below, they can have some sort of restorative, but it has to be at recess. So if there's some sort of disciplinary issue and they need to work on something, they can work on it at recess with a staff member.
Okay.
But that's the only way that they cannot be isolated or somewhere else.
Okay.
There has to be some sort of an alternative that's offered during recess. It's not just sitting and doing nothing for recess time.
Okay.
So
If it's restorative.
it has to be restorative, but it has to be part of the regular recess program.
Okay. That's helpful. And
Yep.
thank you for also reminding me of the process for the reading. So,
Yes.
and to the point of what you mentioned, if it's a state change that's already been communicated anyway, and is there an easy way to see with the changes which ones were state requirements that were changes versus which changes were just changes?
Yeah, we worked on that, and we have a list of policy changes which the policy committee has a list it works off of, and we show like what's high priority, what's legal change because of a law change, and those kind of things. Do you mean a list of
Or within
or
the
any
document,
of these
Thank
which
you.
words?
within the document? Yeah,
you, Mike.
anything that is other than black ink is a change that the policy committee and/or legal counsel made.
I think going forward, we're going to try to do more color coding, right, of where
Yes.
they came from.
Yep.
So, but this is a continuation from last year, so
Okay.
maybe all that detail isn't
Which
there.
it was there once upon a
Was.
time. I don't
Right. Maybe that's a Fran question.
search
We can try
through
to keep that
Google
in
Doc
check.
history to find it.
I think what we try to do, and this may be more something policy committee may have to talk about a little bit more, is when we bring it to the full board, though, we try to just have the version that the policy committee has said, okay, we're good with it. Whether it was legal counsel or the policy, we're just saying the policy committee is signing off, sending it now to the full board. So anything that's stricken or in different ink, is the policy committee is good with it, whether it was our attorney saying that or the policy committee communicating back and forth with our attorney, or just finally saying, yes, we're good with it going. So we just wanted to have one version. But if you wanted to see, Fran has the versions. If you wanted to see, like, what did our attorney say? What did, that kind of thing. We have that color coded.
Okay.
But we just don't put that in the packet because, for clarity's sake, this is basically what the policy committee is now recommending and sending to the board
Okay, that's
for
helpful.
final acceptance.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank you, Jeff.
One more question, sorry. Under the suspension, is it possible to speak just a little bit about what constitutes a conference before the student is able to come back to school? Just curious as to what the follow-through is, especially in a particularly troublesome incident.
Yeah. I will say that I can't say that 100% of the time does the conference always follow what we would like it to.
Okay.
And I think, one of the good things is that we don't suspend out of school, even at the secondary grades, very often here. And we almost never expel students here. It's just something we don't do. There are districts that regularly do things like that. We find alternative ways. But when a student is out of school for suspension, the expectation is that there is some sort of a meeting for the student to come back with a parent and the principal or assistant principal, and if there's anyone else like a social worker or guidance counselor that might participate. And there's supposed to be at least a few minutes of a meeting to make sure the student feels good to go back and re-enter. It's usually done right before school is beginning, so that the student isn't missing any school time. I know that I've been aware of a couple of conferences that may not have completely met that mark, that expectation. We've been reviewing that, and part of the policy changes, we review this with administrators and what we expect. I would say most of the time that conference is pretty robust. It's trying to get the student, the parent, and the administrators, and anyone that's going to support the student coming back to have a good day. Let's get back and have a good day. Let's, especially if they've been out for a few days. Then that's really important, and usually they have support from somebody on staff besides the administrator.
Thank you.
Can I clarify that? So if the incident or whatever, rare though it is the teacher involved too, or are they included in the meeting?
Not usually in that transition meeting back to school. Occasionally, it really depends on if there's a staff member that would connect with that student pretty strongly. Without saying more, if let's say it's a student that's maybe involved in some sort of a program or a club or something like that, and it would be helpful to have that adult there. It's usually the administrator who was involved with the suspension, the parent, and the student. And often, I'd say at least half the time, there's a guidance counselor, a social worker, someone who either has been working with a student or might just check in with a student.
If it was an incident that involved any sort of threat or challenge to the teacher, would they be invited to be included in the return
Probably
meeting?
not that meeting. There might be another meeting for that, but not that
Just
meeting.
to clear the air between student and teacher before they're
Yeah.
back in the classroom
For
together?
that piece, we would probably do that prior to the student even coming back if we can do it. The other piece, if there's a threat, there is a risk assessment that's done, and it's by parent permission, but I would say 99% of the time the parent usually agrees. I'd say almost not 100% of the time we're seeing that. A parent will say, yes, please give me more information. And we'll conduct a risk assessment, and all those pieces are kind of part of that assessment, including if there's a recommendation for a restorative meeting or those kind of pieces that are put in. And we also determine if there's a threat, if it's a low, medium, or high risk for the student, and what kind of supports they would need coming back before they come back.
Others? Questions, comments, concerns? Okay, so that's the first read, and we expect that to be the second read and for approval to next meeting?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, moving on to item 8C, facilities. Mike.
3 quick things. We had a meeting where we discussed a potential solar power project that had been in conversation with the two towns, Cumberland and North Yarmouth, as well as the district, to explore a joint effort to do a solar power project that would provide solar energy for the district, especially given the federal tax support that now can apply to tax exempt entities like a school district or a municipality. The financing of it is very intriguing, so we just put out some information to get some information back from developers to see what that would look like and what that could look like. We got back two initial RFQs. It was a request for qualifications, and so two companies gave us their qualifications and a sketch of what a project could look like, and it was appealing. It was really appealing, personally speaking, not speaking for the facilities committee yet. So, but the facilities committee is still, this is a slow process. We're going to meet again, go through that, start thinking through what that could look like. And the facilities committee, at our meeting, we raised multiple questions that we need to work through with our lawyers to make sure that this is done properly and correctly. So, FYI and all that. Happy to answer questions if people have on that. Second thing, we will hopefully be meeting next week. Tomorrow is really going to be a pivot point, one way or the other, for all facilities work. So one way or the other, we are going to have a lot to discuss facilities-wise. Third, I want to be a little selfish at the moment and just take a moment from facilities perspective to show some appreciation. Just want to say how much I've appreciated it, how much everybody here has worked on the new school, the referendum. The work done by Jeff and Scott has been wonderful. The work done by Oak Point has been just really tremendous. Jason, and your letters to the community were really well done. Kim Vine, you're a bulldog and brilliant. So I just really appreciate you all. And so that's it.
Thank you, Mike. Questions for Mike?
I'm a nice bulldog, though.
You are.
Okay, just making sure.
Unlike some of the rest of us.
Okay, moving on to curriculum and
Tom.
Tom's not here.
Tom isn't here, but he did send out a calendar. We do have a plan now. I think our first meeting is not the 17th, but 22nd, it's before Thanksgiving.
All right, and Jared, equity.
So we had our orientation, or our first meeting last month. It was a good meeting, mostly getting to know one another in the group. We talked about a couple of topics. One was revisiting sort of the mission statement of the Equity Leadership Steering Committee. The way it currently reads on the website is the Equity Leadership Steering Committee promotes continuous learning, skill building, and dialogue in MSAD 51 to create an anti-racist, inclusive community. We talked about really, I think initially it was drafted that way because there was viewed to be a lot to take on in a short period of time. But we talked about expanding the mission really to talk about creating an environment that is free from discrimination really against any protected class, as well as a broadly inclusive community, and thinking about equity not just in terms of the protected classes, but also based on factors such as socioeconomic class. I thought actually that earlier when we got the presentation about approving the trip to the Dominican Republic, I thought it was interesting that Anne's first question was, what steps could we be thinking about to make it broadly affordable for any student who might want to go, but for whom the price of the trip might be an obstacle? And that type of thinking was, I'm glad it was so reflexive from Anne, but would be an example of thinking about equity from the perspective of socioeconomic class as well as protected classes. So I think there was pretty broad acceptance that really the mission should be thinking about all protected classes as well as socioeconomic classes. And then really we're just now beginning the work of thinking about what would go into a plan as pursuant to policy ACA, and the superintendent is charged with coming up with a plan to further that policy. And we have our second meeting tomorrow, and everyone's been asked to think about what are the different categories of work that would go into that plan. Just to take a minute to recognize there's so much already being done by the each school building and by the administrators and by the teachers. So a portion of the plan would just be to acknowledge all the good work that's already being done on a regular basis and talk about how that will become a sort of a regular practice for the school, essentially. And we've asked everyone just to think about, what's one or two important priorities that you'd like to try to see accomplished this year. So.
Very good, thank you. Questions of Jared, comments? Okay. I've officially asked Jared to consider doing the equity meetings in person, and I would encourage all committees to the degree possible to move in that direction. Particularly with equity, I think it adds a lot of humanity when you're sitting across the table from a human instead of your computer screen. And I'm hoping that we can move back in that direction, and I think that helps discussions and these difficult conversations, and so I would encourage that, and I've asked Jared outright to do that with equity. Okay, moving on. Student reports. Who wants to go first?
All right, I really don't have much to say. We have school off Friday, and everyone's very excited about that. Remember, as you appreciate not having school, to also appreciate the veterans in your life, because it is Veterans Day. So, yeah.
Thank you, Avery.
One thing that I would like to talk about was that I wasn't able to talk about last meeting was how the juniors, and what was mentioned in the superintendent's report of that day, where all the different grades went around to do different things. The junior class, my class, took the PSATs, and that was one special thing that happened on that day. And also the quarter closed 2 weeks ago, and it's kind of been hectic with all the kids kind of scrambling, getting all the last assignments turned in, and also the teachers getting all the grades in the grade book and making sure that everything closes nicely.
Very good. Thank you, Tommy. Questions of the student representatives? Kim, go for it.
It just occurred to me, there are students who are 18. Is there ever encouragement for those students to vote?
Yeah, I see signs up in the wall saying register the vote. Okay. I myself will be voting tomorrow. And I don't think there are many of us right now, 18-year-old students, but yeah.
No, and I don't know if you or any of your friends, Avery, I know that librarian Jennifer Benham from Prince Memorial Library came and actually did a voter registration drive with students.
Yes, I know that. I know that you can register to vote, I think, beginning at the age of 16. Mm-hmm. So
yeah, the student government led a voter registration drive that, like, you could pre-register if you were 16, 17, or you could register if you were 18. So you'd be ready to vote when you were able to vote.
Do you know how many students participated in that? I know that Jennifer came down and did that, but how many students participated in that? That would be interesting.
I don't know the exact number. I think a lot of juniors didn't think as much in terms of participating because we have, like in some cases, more than 2 years until we turn 18. But as for the seniors, I'm not totally sure.
Yeah, that's awesome. So Avery, you're voting in person, or have you already voted?
Nope, I'm going in tomorrow.
All right. Yeah, always remember your first time. Yeah.
You get a sticker.
Yeah.
Get the sticker.
Yeah, you get a sticker, and
thing, right?
it's exciting.
And anybody who hasn't registered, Maine has same-day voter registration. So any students or anybody else.
Because I didn't do that either.
Is that something that you could announce tomorrow or promote a little bit? I mean, I know you said there are signs.
People should pull up and register the vote, then vote. I don't know. Maybe for all 10 of us who are able to vote.
Go over together. Yeah.
Okay. Moving on to ad hoc committee reports. Kim, you already mentioned the community partners. That's great. Acknowledging the PTO. And do you want to talk about the new school?
There's an election tomorrow.
Very good.
I have some thoughts on
some of our blind spots. And I'm not sure whether it's appropriate to talk about it before we even know the results, or whether, to talk about it after the fact. But just some things that I know that I learned that we could have done better. And I was just thinking it would be, helpful at some point to talk about what we've learned. So I don't know. Do you think it's better to talk about it before the election or after, when we know the results?
Go for it.
Okay. I know one in particular, I was so mad at myself, and I put this in the email. None of us, it never occurred to us to host a public meet and greet on the land itself. And I don't know how that slipped by us, but I think that would have been really helpful. That's what I wanted to do yesterday, but I didn't feel confident with where the actual building site would be, and I was afraid somebody was going to come and challenge me, and I wouldn't be able to say it. Plus, I'm really afraid of ticks, and I just was really nervous about walking out there.
And what did you do yesterday? Kim just mentioned that.
So we did, and rather than be on site, we were at Twin Brook, and I want to thank Jason and Anne and Christina for hanging out our dogs, and just we were all there. No one in the community came, took advantage of our invitation, but some of those things, I think it's just to have said that we were going to be there. That can go a long way in the community, to know that we were offering our time to do that. But if tomorrow doesn't go the way that we would probably like it to go, and this happens again, I think that would be something to add, is a couple of on-site public events where people can really walk the land and see it. And the other thing I just want to acknowledge, and I did this on Facebook today, but I just want to say it publicly, is there is some discouragement in the community over the print material, especially the mailer. And I think it's frustrating for community members who are very much against this referendum that district funds were used for print materials, particularly the mailer, and I completely understand that. So I just want to acknowledge that we did that to be responsible. It was appropriate for us to mail out information to make sure that any voter who was not online, who somehow was not aware of it, would get it in their mailbox. The timing of it ended up just being very unfortunate. There were a lot of things that just kind of contributed to it going out kind of late, and it felt more like a response to the loud voices saying no than it did to the original plan. It was always the plan to put that out. But the other thing I want to acknowledge is that the mailer did not include the mill rate increase. And I take responsibility for that. I thought it was going to be on there, and somehow I never looked at the final proof. Somehow I missed that. But I know that a lot of people are very frustrated that we put out a mailer and did not include some very important information about that. So I just want to say that publicly, that we messed up on that, and I apologize, and I hope that people will forgive us for having those blind spots and coming up short on those.
But Kim, I also want to just say thank you to you for all of the work to put that together. So I think those are, there's always something that we can work on these kind of things. But for the most part, all the information was out there that needs to be out there for people to make a informed decision. And thank you for being part of that, really heading up the PR part of it, and just getting all that information out there. So I hope your dogs all had fun at the park yesterday. I'm sure that was.
And yeah, Kim was even on it enough to tell me to not come because there was too many board members.
I was worried we would have a quorum.
Yeah. We came close to a quorum, yeah.
Right, like, no.
Have an agenda for it every Saturday in the fall.
Soccer games, yeah.
And just to add to what Mike was saying, thank you to everyone who was able to be at the farmers market on those Saturdays. I think that that was a really wonderful thing for the community. I know that the organizers of the farmers market were really appreciative. They loved having us there. So, Jason, that was a great idea, great strategy.
And I would add too, there were a lot of community businesses that were very welcoming to the flyers to get facts out to people. So thank you for putting together the flyers, and they're out there if people want information.
Okay. Other comments about the new school? Okay. I think that completes.
I just have a question. How do results get communicated tomorrow? I mean,
Jeff and I were on an email where we get.
Bill Shane will email
Yep.
us.
Yeah, I know you were on it too,
We'll
Mike.
get-
I was on
We'll
it.
get that information. Yeah, several people will probably be getting it, so who knows how you get it, but you'll get it.
okay, I mean, I know it will be made
Yeah.
public,
I'll
but
text you.
It'll be on
No,
Facebook.
we'll get it to you.
moments
We'll need
somebody
after,
from North
too,
Yarmouth.
yeah.
yes, like who's the
The trick is
North Yarmouth
sometimes
person?
Cumberland and North Yarmouth getting the tallied final result.
Okay.
You know, sometimes I'll get one and then I have to wait a little bit, or they collaborate, but there was still a few, you know, they were still working on. So once we get a final, I can't put anything out until there's a final
And
vote.
the town of Cumberland always emails out the results from the town to the whole email list, and I'm because our state representative, state senate results are in the Portland Press Herald online, and I'm pretty sure this referendum would be
there
too.
too.
There's usually referendums, so probably
Yeah.
in the Press Herald.
But we will get you the information as soon as we've got it. I'm sure you'll find out probably before I put it out, but we will. I
How
will
late
as soon
will
as
you
I
be
know.
I know, right?
How
This
late
is
will
a-
you be up?
I'm gonna stay.
We're done
I'm
counting
staying
by
up.
like 9:30.
I'm waiting for the vote. You know, it could be a long night because it's a gubernatorial
Right.
election, so could take a little while.
And I'd like to say thank you to everybody, especially Kim, the Phase 1 marketing people, Jeff, Scott, everybody else that pitched in, our architects, regardless of how the turns out tomorrow. It's been a tremendous amount of work, and it's been rather exhausting trying to get the information out there and sort of not getting pulled in to some of the difficult conversations. I think we did a good job putting out the information for the people that want the information. I think it is available, you know, on that web page. And so I really just want to say thank you. I think it was well done. Not perfect, but I just don't think perfect is attainable for 100% of the people. I think we did a very good job. We shall see what tomorrow holds.
Yeah, I'd like to thank the board for all of its support and on this project, and hopeful for tomorrow. And but thank you to everyone for all of your contributions and all of your different ways that we've contributed to helping with getting the information out to people. It's been great.
All right, moving on. Communications, 9A. So, Leanne, you and I went to the MSA Fall Conference. Do you want to talk about what you did there?
Sure,
Go for
sure. It was, as a new board member, I thought it was a really good introduction to a lot of legal. I can't remember the last time I was around that many lawyers, maybe never, but really the sessions learning about, you know, the new discrimination laws, legal year in review. I have lots of handouts for anybody. Thanks to Grumman Woodsum. They had some great materials. Board power and authority, leadership in a divided community. So between learning a lot around the legal aspects, also just having the opportunity. Jason and I were both there the first day. We got to hear the keynote speaker, David Horsager, best known for his book, The Trust Edge. He really talked about the different pillars of trust and really shared a lot of, you know, good information just to be thinking about the different pillars of how to build trust. And I think very, you know, thinking about, especially around the new school project and some of the things that have been going on in the community, and just thinking about how, what are some of those relationships that we can build as a board and as a community that will benefit us all going forward. So I thought that was a really great way to kind of kick off the conference. But I would encourage anybody next year who's interested to go. I thought it was a lot of really great sessions and a really good grounding in the legal aspect of our work, which is like really most of it. So, like I said, I have some materials if anyone's interested in the legal year review. I have it. So.
I went to day one as well. I didn't go to the second day, but on Wednesday, the evening before, there was also an event for the chairs and vice chairs. I went to that. I found that educational. They talked about sort of running meetings, facilitating meetings, Robert's Rules of Order, a lot of the challenges going on in various districts around the state. I found that helpful. The second day, or the first day of the full conference, I thought that David Horsager's presentation was fantastic. I made some good notes there. One of the things that really struck me, he said, prior to Watergate, a long time ago, that the trust of government, just basically, does government get it right, was 80%. Today, it's 7%. And then he went on further in his conversation, and he started talking about school boards and us being sort of the lowest level of government, and we are the front lines of interacting with the public. And so he put those two things together, and I thought, it's not surprising that, you know, at the school board meetings, it's really tough sometimes, and there's a lot of emotions, because in general, everybody is very unhappy with government or doesn't trust government, and we're the first lines that they interact with. So I found his presentation really good. It's not an easy fix, but trust is something that we could work on to improve things. I learned a lot about special ed, and I've forgotten most of it. And then there was a couple of other presentations that aren't worth mentioning, but I thought it was really good. Learned a lot. David Horsager, I'm sure we can't afford him, but he would be fantastic to come.
I'll get his book. Right?
Yeah, I'm halfway through it, actually. Well, Audible. I listen to books, no, read them. Okay.
Still counts.
It does count.
Yes.
Yes, I get badges and everything. Yeah.
You should wear them.
Okay, moving on. Items for action, again, we have an executive session, so do I hear a motion for that?
I'll move to enter executive session to consult with legal counsel pursuant to state statute 1 MRSA 4056E.
Thank you, Mike. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Anne. Discussion. All in favor? All opposed? Unanimous. Motion carries. All right. So I think we can shut down the mics, and then we'll adjourn off camera when we get back.